Hello, welcome to Netflix versus Cinema, and welcome to. If you listen to the regular show, you knew that we said that we were going to be talking about Avengers Endgame, and we were going to have a massive spoilerific chat where we spoke about everything in depth into the film, mainly to just give Sean something to talk about, but also because once you've seen this film, you want to grab somebody who's also seen it, and you want to discuss. Hang on a second, what about that? What about that? So, Sean, let's kick off and let's talk about. Favorite moment in the film. Favorite moment in the film. You kick it.
Favorite moment in the film. I know there was many favorite moments, but I know this sounds strange for all the stuff that went on and everything like that. But my favorite bit was when Tony Stark's putting his little girl to bed, and she says, "I love you 3,000," and it just like I melted. I was like, "Oh my god, that's the sort of 3,000. That is just so random, and that is so what a little one would say."
Yeah.
And then he goes out and he's like, "Oh, she only loves you like 900. Me, I'm like 3,000."
Yeah,
and it really that was one that was, and that really sticks in my mind. So and the other one I mentioned the 3,000. So I really like that bit. There were loads. I mean, I and like we were talking about the Thor bit when they first go to where the Asgardians live.
Yeah, where they go to New Asgard.
Because I mean, they were nearly decimated in the previous film. So there's a few of them left, and they've made a community in a place, obviously where
that looks sort of Scandinavian.
And they even had old Korg in it, which
Korg and Meek,
yeah, and he's like, "Oh yeah, hey, this guy's being horrible to me, Listen, if you and I mean. He was great, and I really liked Hawkeye as well. I thought Hawkeye at the beginning was like, he's a real badass. He'd gone from like, he was just on a mission. He was like, well, I've lost everything.
If I lose my family, how is it that these criminals can survive? You're not going to survive in my world.
I love the treatment of that. Like even the thinking of the character going, hang on, I lost my entire family, and there's criminals in this world who didn't, and he's like, you're out. I'm taking you all out.
And he's determined, isn't it? And he played that really well. And you just thought, he's determined.
He's lost everything, hasn't he? So what has he got to lose?
Exactly. And when people are like that, it's there was just so much good stuff. And I really like the bit, and I'm sure we're going to come to this. I know I'm jumping ahead right to the end game, but
anybody who's listening, anybody who's listening to
this,
they've
seen it,
has seen it. So that's what I'm thinking. We just jump around. It doesn't matter. We don't need to explain the plot. You've seen the film,
Yeah. I mean, the bit where all the female characters go, she's not alone, and then they all turn up, Miss Marvel, Scarlet Witch, and they're all like, Valkyrie. There's just like that little one moment, that it's just, and they. Don't they? Do you know what I mean?
It's funny you say that, but for me, that was one of the few bits where I thought it was a bit of a misstep.
Really?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, because
they did it in Infinity War, didn't they?
Well, because
all suddenly all the girls were all together.
Yeah. There was a bit. When I spoke about when we spoke about Infinity War, I said that one of the things that I didn't like the fact that they'd done the whole thing where in the middle of this massive battle, somehow all the women find each other. And it's because they have this bit in Infinity War where there's Proxima Midnight, who is one of Thanos' generals, and she is the one female Thanos general that they have. And somehow all the female superheroes end up fighting against the one female.
Well, that's Tosin. That's what girls and women are like. They do that. They don't like. I mean, they are. That's the. Yeah.
They dance around the handbags.
They're like that. They're like, oh look, there's that.
Okay,
choose my lounge. They're like, oh, you bitch. You know what I mean? You're not going to take that. You know what I mean? It's like
Sean. All right, okay. Prepare for if for the people who listen to this, prepare for a deluge of abuse on Twitter.
So I mean, I didn't mind that bit. I thought, hey, and did anyone see Howard the Duck turn up?
No, apparently he was in there. I'm gonna have to look for him the second time.
He's in there, yeah. Howard the Duck, like with a kung fu thing, yeah.
Apparently, in the final battle, where they open all those portals and everybody comes through, into those. But apparently, in the bottom right of the screen, Howard the Duck is running through carrying a gun, coming to fight Thanos.
I only saw that the second time.
Okay,
I didn't see it the first time.
So
yeah, we'd have to go see it again. So I mean. Yeah, to me, I mean, it was great all the way through, and I thought, Tony Stark was and he looked haggard, and he looked
Oh,
disheveled. He looked worn out and tired, and I mean, they made that look really well.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, because you know,
So
you know the thing at the beginning where it's been 22 days, they've run out of fuel, where they've left Titan and they're going through air, and it's just him and Nebula on the ship, and
on the Blue Meanie.
Yeah, him and the Blue Meanie. Yeah, and as they're going through, and obviously he hasn't eaten for 22 days and he's wasted away. And even though he's going to survive, he's going to make it through. The fact is, Robert Downey Jr. just sells that whole period of the film. He sells the whole thing. He sells the whole "I'm dying." He sells the whole "I'm ready to die." The message that he leaves for Pepper Potts is just heartbreaking. It's just absolutely heartbreaking, because this was a relationship that I remember in the first couple of Iron Man movies, I felt like this whole Pepper Potts Tony Stark relationship isn't really working for me. I don't really buy it. But the way they've built it up throughout the previous films, like where they break up and they get back and all that kind of stuff, and the fact that at the beginning of Infinity War he's telling her, "I had a dream, we had a kid," and the way they've built it, they've made it believable for me, and I think a lot of that is just down to Tony Stark. So Robert Downey Jr. taking Tony Stark on this arc and developing this arc of who Tony Stark is, to the point where he can sit down there and have a scene where it's just him talking to a helmet, and it is one of the most heartbreaking things in the film. It was so well done that even though I knew he was going to get saved, I was almost kind of sad when he did get saved.
But she's one of the. There's a moment in that sequence as well that I thought was actually quite telling, but in a smaller way, about Nebula, how far she's come.
Yeah.
Because there's a scene where they're like got this sort of pack of peanuts or something, and she's sort of no, she gives them to him to eat.
Yeah.
And you think she would not have done that in
in
any of the
Guardians
other
of the
films.
Galaxy 1,
And she's come so far, I think.
That's right, yeah.
And it's one of those things you could quite miss, that moment.
Nice,
but it's suddenly that she was prepared, even though you don't know how long she would survive without nourishment, because she's obviously got a different sort of wiring to him. But even though she would be prepared to say, no, actually, you have these calories.
That's it, you can have them because I'll be fine. But see, again,
you don't know for how long.
That was well done about how Thanos found out about what was going on.
Yes.
I thought that was well. You know, they had that was like. Oh yeah,
didn't see that coming.
Didn't see that coming. You know,
okay.
So
okay, all right. Bearing in mind that we're still talking about just Sean's favorite bits of the film.
Yeah.
but we better someone else.
No. I mean, I think we should go, and everyone can just chuck their things in. But so on the other show that we've just recorded like 5 minutes ago, I said about how everything that you don't see in the first 15 minutes, that like the bits that link those bits, I was shocked. And so the idea that they had at the beginning of the film, where like they say, all right, cool, and you're gearing it up for this whole, okay, round 2, let's go find Thanos, let's go fight against him. And the fact that they find him, I think even the character of Thanos is just so well sketched out.
Definitely, even in the final scene when he actually sits down, you know what I mean, and it's like, oh, inevitable. You know what I mean? It's almost like he's like,
it's so well sketched out. But I mean, the bit at the beginning where they find out where he is and where he's gone off to. I mean, it makes sense that the way they find out, they go, okay, we've got this whole energy signature that is exactly the same as what happened when he snapped his fingers. We've seen the same energy, so they figure out where he is. They all tool up, and you go, right, yeah, and then they go off. And the first 15 minutes of this film, a lesser film would have been the whole film. That would have been the whole.
That would have been it.
Yeah, and the fact that they go there, you see Thanos, and you see him like with the Infinity Gauntlet is more or less melted onto his hand. Half his face is burnt, and they ambush him, and that scene it's exactly what would happen if it was in real life. They go, okay, we know what we did wrong the last time. We're not doing that again. And they all just get in there. They all ambush him. They grab his hand, and as they think he's about to click his fingers, and Thor just comes in and chops his arm off with the axe. And I was like, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
I was like, "What? You just chopped his arm off? What the?" And you could see the fact that when we talk about the motivations of character, that obviously Thor, the fact is that the last thing Thanos said to him is, "You should have aimed for the head."
Yeah.
And then then they get in there. So the first thing is, what the hell? They chopped his arm off. Second thing is that Thanos has actually destroyed the Infinity Stones. And you're like, that makes sense. He would do that. he would.
Yeah.
He would.
He would do that, and it makes
It even says, doesn't he? I didn't want the temptation.
yeah.
So,
Yeah,
he even says that.
Yeah, and I think it's just, and I think, oh my god, they've actually just made Thanos into a real actual character, not just I am the bad guy. Mwah, ha, 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 ha.
Yeah.
They've thought about
I mean,
that.
he had his reasons. He had his reasons.
Yeah, he destroyed it, and then the fact that they do the whole thing where Thor just chops his head off, and I'm sitting there going, okay, so what's gonna happen now? So essentially,
That was actually one of.
yeah. Sorry,
I was
Sharon.
going to say that was one of my highlights. If I had like my top 5, one of my top 5 would have been Thanos' death.
Yeah.
The fact that he's in the middle of his like speech, he's going to give all this motivation and blah blah blah, blah, and then Thor just steps up
goes,
and just chops his head off.
Have some of that.
And it's like, no, I don't need to hear anymore.
Yeah.
And I think the way they handled that, to me, that was one of my top moments, is that you weren't expecting that, but it made sense that he's not going to listen to this. He's like, he's lost everything. Why would he sit and listen to this guy who's taken everything from him?
Yeah.
Killed his brother, destroyed half his kingdom, his people, and left him just with nothing. He wouldn't listen to him. It's like, no, don't.
Yeah,
Just chop my head off. So that was one of my top 5.
Yeah, because honestly, I was expecting from there to be like, okay, Thanos is lying. He hasn't actually destroyed the Infinity Stones. They're gonna keep him around for a while because they're gonna need him to figure out how they're gonna reverse this whole thing. And they just went, no, he actually did destroy the stones. There's no way of getting them back. And Thor just went, well, if that's the case, then I'm not making the same mistake twice. I'm taking your head off. And just took his head off. And I was just kind of like, from that point, I was like, okay, I don't know what this film is going to be, and the fact that they do that in the first 15 minutes, and also the fact that because as you said, with the whole thing of you have the whole time travel thing, and they go back in time, and then because Nebula, the idea of how Thanos finds out, because Nebula has the same secretary, has the same network that in her head, so future Nebula and they have the same thing, so they I mean, I think that was just so elegantly done, and I was like, okay, that actually makes sense. And the fact that he goes, all right, so in the future, that's what happens. Then his new plan, where he's like, all right, I'm just going to destroy everything. I'm going to get rid of everything, and we'll create a whole new world that doesn't realize that this old world exists. I thought I was like, that is what you would do. Right. That makes sense. Yeah. That he's
one of the one of the comedic movements that I really like was at the end when he goes, "Oh, that's Guardians of the Galaxy." That was just that little scene, at the end where you've got Star-Lord and Thor. So we know who's in charge. It's just the way that was one of the comedic bits that I was like, I really enjoyed that bit as well. So that's probably. I mean, there's just so much in it, really. There's so much.
There's so much. I mean, we could talk about this film. We could pretty much talk about this film for the 3 hours that the film takes to go on.
Yes.
But okay, I'm gonna go a couple of my favorite moments. I really, really love the bit where they go. You know how they go back into the other films. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I love the fact. Well, first of all, when they explain time travel, they explain what they're trying to do. And the bit where they run through all these other films and they say Back to the Future wouldn't work. That wouldn't work. That wouldn't work. That wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Time Cop, rubbish.
Time Cop, rare.
They talk about how the time travel, that it doesn't work that way. That everything that has happened has still happened. It has still happened. It is not going to change because you can't change it. And I think that was before this film. The only other time travel film that I've seen that has addressed that, it was 12 Monkeys. Where they pretty much go, look, if you go back in time to try and change the past, it can't work because the present that you're in has already accounted for you going back in time to change it. Therefore, the present that you're in is the result of you going back in time to try and change things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's all connected.
Yeah, so and the fact that they said in this film, pretty much we can't change the past, we can change the future because that hasn't happened yet. And so I love the fact that they explained that whole thing, and from that point on, when they explained this is what we're going to do, I spent a lot of time watching the film, watching for when they would break their own rule, and watching for when they would say, "All right, yeah, okay, yeah, no, well, it's all changed now, no problem." And I was like, "Okay, no," because they don't show you anything they show you some bits that happened in like the first Avengers movie, and in Thor: The Dark World, but most of what they show you here isn't what they showed you then, and could still have happened around what happened in all those films. So one of my friends, he sent me a message after he saw it. He was like, hang on, does that mean that they just wiped out the continuity of everything that happened in all these other films? I'm like, no, they haven't. Everything that happened in all these other films has still happened.
It's already happened.
Yeah,
So
that's right. Yeah. The bit with Robert Redford as well.
Yes.
That bit.
Yes.
Well, Robert Redford turns up, doesn't he? He's there again. You go, oh, we'll take that. That bit was like inspired, really. I thought
it was.
And you know, the scene in the lift. So sort of Cap knows what he's going to do, and he goes, "Hail Hydra!"
Oh,
and it's
I loved that moment.
That was just like.
Because he took the knowledge that he had and applied it at the time.
And it's just the way, like Abbott. Oh, he's one of our boys. Let him go. Yeah.
And I like the fact that when Cap meets himself, when he has this fight with himself, he says, you can't fool me, Loki. Because he has an explanation for what he's seeing. Again, it doesn't interrupt that time continuity because he thinks he's fighting with Loki.
Yeah, that's it.
And it also explains why Captain America never brings up the fact that he fought himself all these other times, because he just assumed it was Loki. And at that time, Loki had escaped, so nobody else knew where Loki was.
He could,
so
he did that.
That's it.
So I just love.
I mean, that was clever, isn't it? I mean, the whole thing was really, really clever.
It was really. It
was well worked out.
Yeah, and I love the fact, the bit where you talk about Captain America going into the lift, which is obviously it's a callback to Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Because in Captain America, they have that amazing fight scene in the lift, and it's pretty much the same people who are in this lift who are in there. It's pretty much always the same shot, and I was like
Frank Grillo,
and I was expecting that fight to come. I was like, oh, they're gonna do another fight like that, and the fact that Cap just diffused the whole thing by just going "Hail Hydra," I was like, oh my god, yes, of course he would do that.
But again, I like the comment as well. What Ant-Man says, and he goes about, well, they look like bad guys, How can they run for Shield? They're your archetypal bad guys.
How could you not know that they were
bad guys?
Oh right, I love. Oh, Paul Rudd was so good in this film.
Paul Rudd's great. Do you know those the Ant-Man ones? Are a couple of my favourite, and I really, really, really enjoyed Ant-Man and the Wasp.
I love Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Often Ant-Man would say the things that we were thinking, wouldn't he?
That's right.
Like saying, well, what about Back to the Future? So you're saying that Back to the Future was rubbish? And it's like, no comment.
I mean, Ant-Man and the Wasp. I know, going to another film. I just love the bit, even to the funny bit with the truth serum. You know what I mean?
Oh yes.
Yes, I've committed loads of other violations and all that. It is truth serum. Those bits. That's great.
I think it's, but I love that. And the thing, even things like where he goes, where like. And I love the fact that all this way in, the interplay between the characters, like they understand these characters, so they know if they were in this situation, this is the kind of thing they would do.
This is what they do, yeah.
So the fact that like when they go back into Avengers Assemble, and Tony Stark is like, Cap, that outfit did nothing for your ass. And Ant-Man is like, don't listen to him. As far as I'm concerned, that's America's ass.
That's it, yeah.
And then later, when he fights him, when Captain America fights himself, he looks at him and goes, that is America's ass, and walks off.
Yeah, that's it.
I just thought it was hilarious. I thought the film was great. And I think one of my favorite moments, two more of my favorite moments was when they go even further back in time and they go to the 70s and Tony Stark meets his dad. That bit, bit was, that was so well done. It could have been cheesy as hell, but it was so well done. And it was such a real emotional bit. And I love the fact that when he asks him for his name, he takes Pepper Potts' last name. And it's like he goes, it's what's your name? Howard. Oh, my name's Howard too. What about your last name? He's like, and he goes, Potts. And he gives
Potts,
him. And for me, that was just kind of.
He's credible. He's credible, isn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, you forgot your brief. Don't you want to take your briefcase?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much.
I think for me,
Jarvis was there.
Jarvis
was the chauffeur.
Was the butler?
Chauffeur,
That's always been the case. I mean, even in the TV show, because they did a show Agent Carter, based about what happened after Captain America disappeared with Peggy Carter.
And that's why the original computer guy was Jarvis, wasn't it? Because of his dad's right-hand man.
Yeah, he's named after pretty much his butler, so to say. And it's but I love the fact. I mean, that was another thing that just took that whole Tony Stark Pepper Potts relationship and made it big. I love the bit where at the final battle where Pepper Potts shows up in her own armor. I'm like, yes, yes. And I loved what they did with Thor in this film. I love the fact that they just totally, because it's been a well-known thing, or they keep talking about how the fact that whenever Chris Hemsworth shows up, he has his shirt off. Like in every single film that Chris Hemsworth has been in, they've managed to get him to have his shirt off. And I love the fact that they just twisted that Thor becomes this big fat schlub who cannot be bothered with life anymore. And they did have him with the shirt off, but they had him with the shirt off and his beer belly hanging out. And you could just see Chris Hemsworth was having an absolute whale of a time.
He was, yeah.
He was just
wearing like his
that.
bathrobe the whole time, wearing his dressing gown the whole time.
Yeah, turning into the Big Lebowski. Always, the only reason he comes with them is because they have beer. So, like,
That's it, yeah.
and
But he's another one who's like trying to compensate for what's happened, isn't he? Really,
Yeah,
you know,
he's
he's
just
trying.
like,
That's
he's
his
lost
way
his
of that's his
purpose,
way
isn't
of
he?
dealing with it. Like you said back at the beginning, that's how they dealt with the.
Because when he had like Loki always to fight with, always to compete with,
Yeah.
and when he had Asgard there behind him, he
That's
always
it.
had a purpose, didn't he? But when you take that away, what's he got?
Right, exactly.
He hasn't got family. He hasn't got. He's just left with Korg and
Cool. Yeah,
Korg-
Yeah,
the
little
little,
guy.
one of the
Meek.
little thing.
Meek.
Meek, yeah.
yeah,
and video games. It's like, what else has he got?
and also
Oh, yeah,
the,
come
the
to
fact
fix a cable.
yeah, and the fact that out of everybody who sort of like blames themselves for failing to stop Thanos, that he is the one. He like, as far as Thor is concerned, he was the one who had the shot. He could
had
have
the shot,
stopped,
yeah.
and he messed it up as far as it's concerned. And I love the treatment of that guy. Some people have complained and gone, "Oh my god," and I'm sorry if you thought this, and I'm sorry if this is something that's personal to you if you're listening to it. But there's been complaints going, well, when Tony Stark had PTSD, that was treated really, really seriously. But now Thor, they played it for a laugh, they played it for a joke, and I'm like, yeah, because not everybody deals with it in the same way, and quite frankly, there's things in the aftermaths of tragedy that are funny.
Yeah,
that are funny.
but they still deal with it with real pathos, though. I thought when they handled poor Thor, he wasn't a comic character; he was a tragic character.
He was a tragic
Yeah.
character. Yeah, he definitely was. Yeah,
he wasn't an object of fun. People saw him and saw
Yeah.
the pain that he was in.
Yeah.
Like, he has that scene with his mother, doesn't he?
That's
where
it, yeah.
she knows who he
I
is
love
because
that.
she recognises that this is not the
Not
Thor
the proper Thor. Yeah.
of when she last met him, that things have happened to him.
Yeah.
And so it's like there's comedy in it, but they never treat him like he's a comic character.
No, he's just
a tragic character.
You know, that's the sort of way he is, isn't it? You know, yeah, let's have
Yeah.
a beer, let's deal with this, and we just get drunk, and
This
then I won't
bonhomie,
have,
and then
to think
suddenly
about
it's like,
it. Yeah,
He's but you can see that he's someone who's
he's
completely
hurting.
lost.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
hurting.
yeah, and I think, and also because Thor: The Dark World, which is another film they go back into to get another Infinity Stone. I think Thor: The Dark World is so. It's maligned. People say it's one of the worst MCU films, but the fact that they had the balls to go back into that film and give you all the stuff that was happening around, the fact that Rocket's running around, all that, and bring Renée Russo back and give her a scene that I feel like in the two Thor films she was in, she never really had a scene like that. She never really had something that got to the heart of who this character was. And and they gave her this scene with, I just thought it was just so well done. It was so well done.
And the fact that she could see about his eye, she says, "What's happened to your eye?"
What's happened to your eye?
It's like
because
everything
she
in the
saw everything.
Yeah, everything of the film that you would think would be an issue, they address. Oh, and okay, now we need to talk about this because this is another big talking part. Hawkeye and Black Widow, when they have to get the Soul Stone. What did you guys think about that?
Yeah, that was.
I think they would both be torn, wouldn't they?
They would, yeah,
both
definitely.
be the point where
Yeah.
he's thinking, "I've got nothing to lose."
I've got nothing to lose, so I'm
and
going to go.
she's thinking, "Well, you actually have got something to
something to
lose
lose.
because if you get your family back, then you need to
Yeah,
be back with your
that's
family."
it.
But you can see it from both point of view, couldn't you? Thinking,
Yeah.
like, "No, I've got nothing else, and even if I've got my family back, I'm not the same man I was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So how could I go back to that when I've done so much in the meantime?" So you could both see their motivation for thinking, it has to be me.
That's definitely.
And then the realization that they're both thinking, no. We're both thinking the same thing, but
Yeah, it's like we're both thinking that I should sacrifice myself. No, you've got to live. No,
Yeah.
you've got to live. You've got to live. It's
so it is the ultimate, the sacrifice. So I thought I was all the way down. I still didn't know which one of them was going to actually go.
No.
I couldn't
Yeah.
really call it. until that very last minute when it was like, no, it's got to be me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, and that was well done. That was another good scene. That was well done.
Yeah, because I think...
And I thought it was... Yeah.
Carry on, yeah?
I was going to say, what I thought was good in the film was that people who have died at Thanos' hands, other than they disappeared, those people stay dead.
Stay dead, yeah. I love that. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, because there was a temptation, I would have thought, for them to say, we'll just rewrite everything and then we'll bring back everyone. We'll bring back Loki. We'll bring back Vision. We'll bring back all these people we've lost. So they're saying, no, actually, the people he died, because that is not, you cannot go back and change that.
That's it.
They stayed. So Gamora, she stays dead. Yeah. And the Black Widow, Natasha, she has to stay dead. She has to stay dead.
Yeah.
Because this is not
That's what
part
happened,
of
it's like
disappeared.
That was
Loki.
Good,
Loki stays dead. It's like everybody.
The ones who were killed stay dead.
Essentially, if everybody
the ones that just disappeared, everybody that disappeared just disappeared.
Yeah,
was okay, but those that got killed didn't.
Yeah,
they don't come back. Yeah,
Vision is not coming back. Vision's dead.
No,
so
he's gone. Yeah. He's gone.
Vision,
Loki gone.
Yeah, I loved that because I was waiting for them to do something to bring things back, and even the bit where they still. So, and this is a bit where there's been some confusion, and I've seen even like, okay, the Empire Movie Podcast, I love those. I listen to that thing all the time. And I see somebody wrote something on their website talking about how at the end of the film, Peter Quill is, so you know how Thor is with the Guardians of the Galaxy. At the end of the film, Peter Quill is he's going to go look for Gamora, who is still alive. And I'm like, no, she isn't. You've missed the point. Because when Iron Man takes the Infinity Stones off Thanos and then clicks his fingers, which leads to his death, which we haven't even touched on that. But but he essentially says everybody who came through the portal from 2014 goes back. That includes Thanos. That includes Gamora, because that Gamora was from 2014. So, and the also I think because Thanos says, I'm going to make a new world that has no recollection of this world. So one of the things I was thinking is like, okay, so if he sends them back to 2014, why don't they just try again? Why doesn't Thanos have memory of that? I'm thinking, well, because he would just have sent them back with no memory of the fact that they were here. So I was like, okay, that actually tracks. That actually tracks. So Gamora has disappeared and gone back to 2014 with Thanos to carry on her stuff with Nebula from 2014. Everybody who came through that portal, all of Thanos' people who came in and destroy everything, they go back to 2014. And now we carry on. We carry on with this new thing. So I just thought that it had been done really well. And also the fact is, but it raises some questions, but because the way the film ends means that throughout everything that has happened in the previous 21 films, there was an aging Captain America somewhere in the world who just kept quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that means that all throughout this whole thing, there were 2, and at one point there were 3 Captain Americas knocking around in the world, and he just kept quiet. And
so that was my other highlight. One of my highlights was the fact that Cap went back and found Peggy again.
Oh yeah.
Because he was a man out of his time, and he needed to be back in his time. So we've seen this whole film was about about time and how you cannot go back and change the past. Yeah. But he had his future became what it should have been, wasn't it? Should have been, he should have grown old, lived in the 40s and 50s and grown old and been an old man, and so I thought, to me, it was like that was the perfect ending for Cap.
Yeah.
He needed to have the life that he was supposed to have with the woman he was supposed to have it with, and so I wanted to see more of Peggy. I wanted to see more of that bigger glimpse of that life that he had.
Well, that could always be a spin-off one, couldn't it?
But that was something I felt was like one of my highlights, was that Cap got the ending that he deserved.
That could be one of the TV things. You never know that they put on this channel. Yeah. There's so many possibilities. I
think that's the one that most people I've spoken to be like, yes, we need to see more Cap and Peggy. Yeah. That's what we wanted. That's the emotional sort of punchline of the film.
You know what Cap and Peggy is essentially just going to be Up. It's going to be the first 10 minutes of Up. that TV series is going to be Cap and Peggy living in the 50s, but keeping everything quiet because afterwards I was thinking about it and I was like, oh my God, that's why Peggy Carter never got married. As far as everybody else is concerned, she never got married. That's because she had Steve Rogers at home hiding somewhere and nobody knew about it. So I think the film is it's consistent. It holds things through, and the fact and there's a whole thing about it, like when at the end, when Iron Man dies, and when he said his final lines of like, where Thanos goes, "I am inevitable," and he goes, "I am Iron Man." I was like, yes. There were quite a few fan moments in it. I mean, his funeral was just so well done. The throwbacks to it, that shot where where they pan through and they show you everybody who's been in this MCU all the way back.
Yeah.
Did you guys notice? Did you guys notice that there was some? Did you notice that there was some random kid at the back of that shot?
Yes, just on his own. Yeah, I didn't know who that was. Do you know who was that?
That was the kid from Iron Man 3.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't know who it was, because I haven't seen Iron Man 3.
Yeah, the one but I mean, that's how deep they've gone into this thing. They brought that. I was like, who the hell's that? So I mean, Sean, you said it, that they've thought about this. They have gone into this. They have, and I think people have been talking about, oh, now there's different timelines. I'm like, no, there is one timeline. They explained it.
Yeah.
They've made one timeline where it's just, I love the film. I think
to me, it's just like a ribbon. It's like the whole ribbon theory, isn't it? Yeah. It's like it's one long ribbon, but it's every now and then you may have a loop in it, so it can go back, but then it still carries on. It's still one unbroken thread. It's not, you don't rejoin it further back. It's just looped round and then it carries on. Isn't there a bit
with like the who's the Doctor Strange, the mentor of Doctor Strange, where she takes
the ancient one. Yeah,
where she sort of puts a line down, doesn't she?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and that whole discussion between her and the Hulk. Oh, we haven't spoken about what they do with the Hulk. I love what they do with the Hulk.
Yes,
we haven't spoken
He's
about.
Finally reconciled his two halves.
Yeah. We haven't spoken about Captain America lifting Mjolnir.
Oh yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
There's that as well.
Yes, he's obviously working.
We might have to save that for another time.
Yeah.
Perhaps we
and
could
Thor
do a recap.
Says, I knew it, didn't he? Because wasn't there one scene in one of the films,
where
Avengers Assemble, where it lifted slightly, didn't it?
It Avengers Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Because they all try it, don't they?
All right, we're gonna have to do another one of these things. You guys have to head off.
We are. Yeah.
You guys have to head off. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to this. As we said, this is not over. We are probably gonna have to do another half hour next week.
We are.
Okay.
We are.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Okay.
Thanks. See ya. Bye.
We've always got.
And Nina's got to call in. We still haven't spoken to Nina.
Oh right, okay,
Yeah. We don't worry. I'm gonna give Nina a call maybe after this and get her thoughts on it, and then we will. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad.
Okay, so Nina, first up.
Yeah.
So we have been talking about you on the podcast over the last couple of weeks, and we've been talking about our star listener Nina, and we wanted to get you on, if nothing else, just to prove that we're not just sad people who watch films all the time and don't actually have any friends. That you're actually a real person.
I am, in fact, a real person, Tosin.
Yes.
But I am, in fact, also a sad person who watches lots of films, so...
All right, cool. So from what I've known, okay, we've known each other for a while, and from what I've known, you have been... Yeah, you've always been like a real big... So you pretty much had like a regular film watching day in your diary since I've known you, until you had to grow up and get a job or something.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Movies are my favourite thing to do. I love to be in the cinema watching a movie on the big screen, really kind of experiencing and really like ignoring the rest of the world and really getting into that picture. But because I've had to grow up, I've now transitioned to using like Netflix and other streaming kind of programs to make sure that I can still get my movie fix.
Okay. So
yeah, so
okay, so and this is a question that I've been asking a lot of people. So Netflix or cinema for you?
That is tough, because Netflix for the convenience probably, and the selection as well. I think you get a really good selection and you can browse.
Yep.
But you can also get lost in a hole of picking up random things and stuff, which sometimes is good, but sometimes is bad. But I don't think that you can ever get over the cinema experience. Going, sitting down, watching those trailers, getting excited about a movie and really immersing yourself in that movie, and then thinking, oh my God, that was 3 hours and I don't even know where that time's gone. You don't get that when you sit down and watch a Netflix movie, I don't think.
Oh yeah, I don't think Netflix have tried to do a 3 hour movie. I don't think that. No.
Yeah.
No, I think because we were actually saying on the podcast last week that or because we're going to be talking about Avengers Endgame. That's one of the things we wanted to bring you in and say, Nina, you've been like yay, you've been a loyal listener, so to say. Well, there's more. All the statistics tell me that there's more listeners, but you're the one who keeps getting in touch with us and telling us what you think. So it's like you've been a loyal listener, so we thought we wanted to get you in it. But we said that something like Avengers Endgame is something that I don't think you could do on Netflix. That this is cinema flexing its muscles and saying, look, this is what only cinema can do to make this thing such a big cultural touch point that everybody is like, oh my God, I've got to go see this film, and I don't think we would ever get to a point where that would be Netflix. Everybody would be like, oh my God, I've got to go watch this thing on Netflix. So, but
I
yeah.
agree.
Yeah,
I agree. You won't get the same experience if you go and watch it on Netflix. I
Yeah.
think if you go to the cinema, you're fully immersed in it. You get lost in all the characters because there's so many characters in there.
Yeah,
You get lost in the characters. There's little bits here and there. I think if you're watching it on Netflix, you can get distracted and you can miss quite a big bit of the movie.
yeah, and I think the thing I would miss the most is if a film. So let's use Avengers Endgame as an example. Is that so you have Avengers Endgame, and I think if there's moments in it that are sort of like cheerable moments or punch the air moments, and you want to be in a room full of people and see the reaction that everybody has at the sides. It's almost like when a goal is scored. You can be by yourself. Okay, this might not work for you as a football thing, but you can be by yourself and you can be watching something and be like, oh my God, yes! But when you're in a group of people, be it in a pub or anything like that, you're like, it's a totally different thing. And I think if you get the right film and the right audience and you're watching it on a massive screen with a whole bunch of people in a room, it's totally different to watching something on your own at home.
I agree. And also, I think I also like it when the lights come up at the end and you're all looking around at each other after a good movie and just being like, what just happened there? Are you feeling the same thing as me? And you're like looking around. Like, even if you go to, I often go to the cinema by myself because I don't have the same choice of movies as my other half.
Okay.
But when I go by myself, you feel like you want to kind of speak to the person next to you. Did you see that?
Yes.
Can you believe that
Yes.
just happened? Oh my God. This is the thing.
To be honest with you, I think that's a large reason why Sean, Sharon, and I we do the podcast. It's just because we want to see a film. We want to come and talk to somebody about it. We're like, yeah. Well, I had to go see it on my own because nobody else has the same film appetite as I do around me. So, what did you think? What did you think of this? What did you think of that?
Yeah.
I think that's
when I listen to the podcast, I actually feel like I think I've said this to you before, Tosin.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in that conversation with you guys. Like, I'm like, oh my God, I totally think that as well. I can sometimes hear myself kind of almost whispering it. No, I think that as well.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. I mean, yeah, if it wasn't for the fact that, okay, we've already established that, Sean's semi-retired. Sharon and I are both so self-employed, so we're flexible with all that kind of stuff. But you have like a big grown-up job where you actually have to wear like, a suit and stuff to go to work. So if not, we would have you on with us all the time.
Oh, I'd love that. It would be brilliant. It'd be really good. But I don't think I can keep up with you guys on the number of movies that you watch, to be honest with you. I wish I could, but I don't think I could keep up. Like,
just quit your job.
Yeah, and watch movies. I've asked Will if I can do that often.
Quit your job, come work with us. Let's build the podcast into this, world encompass. This could become our jobs. We could go around.
I would love that. Would love it.
Yeah, we could
getting paid to watch movies.
Get paid to watch movies and then compare Netflix to cinema.
Yeah, I'd love it. It'd be brilliant. Really good.
If anybody is listening and knows anybody who can make that happen, please, we would totally do it.
I would totally do it, please.
Okay, cool. Now, let's get on to Endgame. So, you saw Endgame, and I saw it the day after it was released. You saw it a couple of days later. But I think because you were on holiday, and when you go back, you were doing a little bit of catch-up, like watching Captain Marvel and all that kind of stuff to get yourself prepared for Endgame. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So basically, what I did is I knew that it was coming out, and you guys, obviously, I was listening to the podcast, and you guys were prepping me for the fact it was coming out. So I was like, "Yep, it's coming out." So I hadn't watched Captain Marvel yet in the cinema, and I also hadn't watched Ant-Man and Wasp.
Oh
And I
yeah,
knew that from the trailers, I knew that there would be appearances from those movies.
yeah.
So I prepped. I watched Captain Marvel just before, made sure I really concentrated on what was going on. Same thing with Ant-Man and Wasp. Just caught up on it. I also watched some of the things like Guardians of the Galaxy as well, a bit of Thor,
Yep.
those kind of movies, just to kind of catch up and
Yeah.
make sure I was up to scratch.
Cool. Good
Yeah.
stuff. Good stuff. And you, so far, I think you sent me a text once saying that you think you're Sean because you think you and Sean have the same taste in movies.
Yeah, we do. Often I find that when when I listen to Sean reviewing things, often his opinion is often I do agree with Sean quite a lot. Maybe not on the Korean zombie movies. That's the one thing that I've not got into yet, but some of the Korean zombie movies are on my list. I have generated a list of movies that you guys have reviewed
Yeah.
that I've got on my list. So I might try and watch a Korean zombie movie, but I don't think that's for me. But otherwise, I often agree with Sean. I
Oh,
often find that he's a slightly different opinion. Kind of. I often find that sometimes when things are quite hyped up, I sometimes don't often follow that same hype as everyone else.
yeah.
And I think that's probably one of those things.
Oh, okay. In that, have you ever seen a film called Pompeii?
No, never.
Okay.
What's it about?
It's about the historical thing when Mount Vesuvius wiped out Pompeii in
Yeah.
somewhere in Italy, and
Yeah.
yeah, and this is a film that Sean is the only person I know who goes to bat for this film. He's the only person I know who says, "Oh yeah, it was kind of okay. I kind of liked it. I kind of enjoyed that." And I'm like, "No, it was a piece of rubbish." So, so if you saw that and if you ended up going, "Oh, I quite liked it," then I'll say yes. You and Sean might just share one brain.
So can I stream that? Is it available on Netflix?
Oh, I don't know. I've avoided it ever since I saw it in the cinema. So I've avoided that film. It's not good. It has so many.
Oh,
It's not on Netflix. It's not on Netflix. It might be on something else. It's not.
I'll have a look for it.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, so first of all, Endgame. General idea, general thoughts. What did you think of it?
So I thought, considering that it was a number of lead-ins from lots of different movies. So it's 22 movies that Marvel have done now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. This was the 22nd film. Yeah,
Yeah, I think the other 21 they managed to weave all the plots together into this kind of very complex picture that they carried on for 3 hours, I think it was.
yeah,
I think that was absolutely brilliant.
yeah.
But I do think it was quite hammy in certain areas. Like
Okay.
I think we've talked about it before, Tosin. I think when we were kind of texting backwards and forwards, I think one of the things that I thought is they were kind of trying to score points in certain areas. So there's a certain point where they kind of get lots of women together, they're kind of being like women power, and
Okay. By the way, we're putting a whole bunch of spoiler warnings on this, so feel free to talk about any bit of the film. Don't think, oh, I can't give any spoilers. Yeah, feel free to give spoilers.
that's what I was a little bit worried about. That's
Yeah.
what I was
Yeah.
worried about. So basically, when Captain Marvel,
Yes.
is on the field, and then and even when they have the bit where is it when Black Widow and the lady from Black Panther help
Sure.
help Wanda. Was it Wanda?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Fight.
In Infinity War. You're talking
Yeah,
about in Infinity War.
Infinity War, and also in Endgame, like that kind of token women fighting together to combat something, to me kind of feels like it's a tick in a box. Yeah, we've addressed the fact that it's all men here, and let's get all the women together. Why can't it just be everybody fighting together
yeah,
instead of
yeah.
it's all women together?
And I totally agree with you. I mean, as I love Endgame, and there's a couple of bits in it that I think don't work, and that bit for me, I was like, what are you guys doing here? That was one is the one bit in the film that I look at and I feel I don't really think you can make that. I don't think you can do. I don't think you can get away with that. I don't know what you're doing because they go, oh, it's like you can't do that on your own. She's not on her own. And then they also show up and they have this big thing. And it's almost as if Marvel people have said, well, Marvel don't have any female superheroes. And they went, what? See, look. And
Yeah.
they're trying to show, look at all the women we have. And it's cool because I didn't realize that there were that many female characters. Quite frankly, I didn't realize that, and they've almost done it by stealth because they got all these female characters. But at the same time, it's like where are all the men? And I've always hated it in action movies. It used to happen, especially in action movies in the 80s, that you would have if you had like a female character, there would be a bad female character and there would be a good guy female character, and they would always kind of find each other and fight with each other because women had to fight together and then the men would go fight together in some other area. And so I did not like it in Infinity War when I was like, wait, so in this big battle, all the women just kind of find each other on the field. So the three women who are on the good guy side and the one woman who's on the bad guy side just find each other in the middle of the field and have this little women fight in the middle of everything. And I never liked that. So when they did that moment, I was like, oh, okay, it's good. It's almost like a catalog of how many women you have. But why are you doing that? And at the end of the day, they didn't do anything. They
Exactly. So
it's
this
like,
is another thing that gets me is, like with Captain Marvel, she's supposed to be this amazing, powerful person. And then actually, when you look at what she actually did in that movie, she had a haircut and she got together with a load of women and didn't do that much. Right? So
I'm sorry. But yes, you're right.
it's true though, right? She didn't really do anything.
What?
And I kind of felt like they made this big deal about having a separate movie, women, being powerful movie, brought her in to be also oh so powerful in this movie as well. And then she didn't actually do anything.
Yeah,
So for me, that was a weak point.
I think it did seem a bit like what's the big deal? And all the talk beforehand, it seemed to be like, oh yeah, they're calling her, they've sent this thing out there and they've sent her out, they sent a beacon out for her because she's going to come back and she's going to be key in the fight to actually fight Thanos and all that. And she ends up not really doing, she's not in the film. She's pretty much not in the film. Like she's there at the beginning, she saves Iron Man, brings him back to Earth, and then she shows up at the end and she kills everybody and she's like, okay, cool, guys, I'm off. I'm going off to go do something else now. And it's and I think from a story perspective, the fact is if they hadn't brought her back, Iron Man would be dead way before he actually died. if they hadn't brought so from a story perspective, it makes sense that they sent out a beacon and she comes back and she's like, all right, cool, what needs doing, you need to go find this guy, where was he? And she goes and finds him. So from a story perspective, that I'm happy with that. But I think if they hadn't made a big deal of the fact that, oh, she's going to be really, really key, and they hadn't, like, all the talk before the film made it sound like she was going to be key in the fight against Thanos.
Exactly. And in the end, you're like, meh.
And then she did. I mean, okay, to be honest with you, nobody could take out that spaceship the way she took out that spaceship. That is...
Yeah, but they could have, like, if she hadn't been in the movie, I think they probably could have covered it with all the other characters that they had.
Yeah,
like,
they could have covered it with all the other characters. It would have...
Yeah.
I mean, I think they gave her hero moment. And also, I think they used her in bits like, if Captain Marvel wasn't around, Iron Man would be dead. If she wasn't around, Thanos would have snapped everybody out of existence again. Because he's about to do it, and she's the one who grabs his hand and she holds it open. And you can see, I actually really, really like that scene where she's holding his hand open. And you can see Thanos is kind of like, what the hell? And he's actually freaked out about the fact that this woman is stronger than him. And I also love the ingenuity, like the in the fight that they have, you can see them all thinking and trying to do different things to fight each other. Like Thanos sees that, then he takes the Power Stone out of the glove and then punches. And I'm like, oh, good Lord, that is so clever. They've thought about this whole thing. It's so good, and so I quite like that. I quite like that. But
So there's a couple of things that I don't agree with on that kind of thing, because like, yeah, they're trying to do different things, but then actually, so in the first in Infinity War,
yeah,
you know, Thanos didn't have, you know, the gauntlet and all of those kind of things, and he wasn't that strong. He was just like pretty normal. He was pretty strong, but not like, you know, he could have had a fight with Thor and not done anything. Yet then when he come to Endgame, he doesn't have, you know, right at the beginning when he comes back in time, and he doesn't have the gauntlet, or he's forward in time or whatever,
yeah,
the alternate Thanos where he doesn't have it.
yeah.
Suddenly he's like the strongest man ever. And then when he's got his Infinity Stones, he's pretty much almost as powerful. The only thing he can do is click. Whereas in Infinity War, it was the stones, he got more and more powerful as he got the stones. So, and don't even get me started on the whole time thing. I know that time is a big thing in any movie and explaining it, but there's so many continuity errors there that you kind of think,
Well, that is actually the way they dealt with time travel in this film, I really, really like. Now, there's some people who are who I personally think in the explanation of what happens in this film are trying to overcomplicate it. I don't think it's as complicated as some people are trying to make. They're trying to go, oh, multiple universes and all that. I do not. I don't think. I think that is unnecessarily complicated, and I think in the Marvel universe, the writers have been really good. Whenever anybody has tried to come up with a really complicated explanation for anything that they've done, they're kind of like, actually, no, guys, it's actually pretty simple. It's just this, and I think they've done that. So,
but I disagree with you there, Tosin, because the thing is that in the beginning, when they explain about time, when the Hulk slash, you know, Banner describe about time, as I think he's the one who does it, talks about branching and branching time, right?
Yep.
And they're talking about, oh, it's whatever that, you know, the Doctor Strange's predecessor, I can't remember her name.
The ancient one.
Yeah, the ancient one. Talk about branching of time, right?
Yep.
And all of these kind of things. Yet actually they use that in and out of different scenarios. So they're like, you know, you have to bring back the Infinity Stones because otherwise our time will be, you know, thrown off into another branch that will then whatever.
Yeah.
But then they don't use it when Captain Marvel comes back. He went back in time, which should have created a branch, which means he wouldn't have come back in his time, right? But actually, they're saying that he did come back in his time. Captain America. Sorry.
Yeah.
So actually, they're saying that there isn't a branch, but actually there should have been a branch because he should have been in his own time when he came back. Well, and also Peggy Carter. Is it Peggy Carter? She doesn't. I know that everybody's kind of saying, well, it's because she kept it secret that he was at home and whatever. But actually, would Captain America really have just sat there being, oh, all these things are happening. I'm just going to sit back and there's a second Captain America in this time at the same time.
Okay. Now, this is the bit, right, where I think it comes in with, I refer to it as the 12 monkeys. The 12 monkeys problem. Have you seen the film 12 Monkeys?
Yeah, I've seen it, yeah. So a long time ago, but...
Yeah, so 12 Monkeys has this... I remember the first time I watched it, I couldn't understand it because every other film you'd seen before that had to do with time travel, it was going to the past, fix something, and then you get back to the future, and it's like, oh my God, everything is now better, we fixed it. But this is where it gets a little bit crazy physicsy. But the central premise for 12 Monkeys, as far as I'm concerned, is it's pointless going back in time to change your present, because whatever present you're in at the moment has already accounted for the fact that you've gone back to change it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree.
So if you're in the present now, if you go back in time to try and change the present, it's not going to work. Whatever you do is going to lead you to exactly the same place that you are right now. So if Captain America goes back in time and all these other things are happening, and he goes, look, I've been to the future, I've seen what the future is, and whatever I do is only going to lead to that future. So even if he goes, oh my God, you know what, Peggy, there's Hydra inside of S.H.I.E.L.D., whatever would happen and something would happen, and then it would end up that the exact same future that he was in would happen anyway. So, and I think that is the reason why in the film they don't go back in time before Thanos destroys the stones and try and stop him destroying the stones. It's why they don't go back in time and try and make sure that Infinity War never happens. That's why they don't do it, because they're like, look, that has happened, it has happened. We cannot change that ever happening. But what we can do is change what is going to happen in the future. So that's why they have to get the stones, bring them now, and then change from this point on. We need to change what's happening, but we can't change what happened in the past. So when Captain America goes back, I think he goes back, puts the Infinity Stones back exactly where they got them from. Then he goes and plugs himself into the timeline, and he's just like, yeah, I was always here. This is where I've been the whole time. And he just grows old slowly.
But how could he? Because there's two of him in that timeline.
Yeah. Yeah, there's two of him in the timeline. But it's still...
But how could there be two of him in the timeline? Because he's gone back in time, he's reliving it. But then there's another timeline somewhere that has got...
No, I don't think
it's got no Captain Americas, right?
No, I don't think that there's another... Well, no, essentially, so... Okay, let's try and figure this out. So it's Captain America. He falls into the ice in 1945, right?
Yeah.
And he's frozen for like 70 years or whatever it is, wakes up in 2015.
Yeah.
According to the whole thing of the film.
Yeah.
So he wakes up in 2015. So between for 1945 and 2015, that Captain America is in the ice. But then this other Captain America goes back to like maybe the 50s or something like that, or whatever, and then he's alive. So at that time, there's only one Captain America all the way. But by the time 2015 comes round, he is an old man, and then the young version of him gets taken out of the ice. So then there's two of them walking around. And that can happen. The film has already established that is possible because you have two Captain Americas fighting each other.
Yeah.
So it's already established that that's fine. So essentially, the Captain America who in 2023 would have been living for, I don't know, another 100 years till 2021, 23. Instead of living those 100 years, he goes back and decides to live those 100 years in the 50s, if that makes sense.
I'm just thinking it through. Don't worry about it. I'm not.
No problem.
You've got to think about this, right?
You've got to think about it.
When I was watching it, I was thinking there's actually, at some points, there's like three Captain Americas, aren't there?
Yeah,
because there's one that's in ice, there's one that's gone back, and there's one that's fighting it.
Yeah.
Like,
at some point, there's three Captain Americas running around. So essentially, during the Battle of New York, when there's two Captain Americas fighting each other, there's another Captain America somewhere getting old.
Yeah, this is the thing. And he would have just sat back, that Captain America, he's getting old, would have just sat back and been like, there's all these things happening around. I'm not going to get involved in that.
Yeah, because whatever I try and do will not change anything. Well, he might have killed a couple of Chitauri because he knows that, look, whatever I'm going to do is not really going to change anything. This is still going to happen. Thanos is still going to show up. He's still going to wipe everybody out.
Also, another thing is that, so, yeah, fine. He didn't get involved. You know, it wouldn't impact the future. But did he just hide in his house waiting for Peggy to come home every day? Because he couldn't just walk around because people would recognize him as being Captain America.
Well, you know, well, think about it, right? You already know that S.H.I.E.L.D. have face-changing technology. In Captain America, the Winter Soldier, there's the whole bit where Black Widow disguises herself as Jenny Agutter with a whole new face and all that kind of stuff, and nobody knows. And she walks in and she goes through all the highest security level stuff that they have. So you know they have the technology to hide his face if need be.
But that was in the future, wasn't it? Black Widow was so in the 50s when he actually went back to see Peggy Carter or whenever it was that she was there. He would have had like 30 years till they got that technology to...
Well, we don't know when they got that technology because it's S.H.I.E.L.D. Because S.H.I.E.L.D. are always kind of like, oh, hide everything and everything like that before people get out. And he had Howard Stark with him. And also, she's a master spy. If she wanted to hide somebody, she would hide somebody.
Yeah.
So it's...
Okay, you've come up with lots of valid arguments there. And now it makes me want to go back and watch it, see whether I can find any more holes. But one other hole that I found, and overall, I know that I'm picking all the holes in this movie, but I actually really, really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah.
And I like I said, I like the way they weaved everything together.
Yeah.
And you kind of think, oh yeah, no, that works back onto the old, like the other movies. They had some twists in there, like Fat Thor, and all of that kind of stuff.
Okay, I know,
Very good movie.
I know a lot of people are there's a whole bunch of things there's a lot of triggers for people. People are like, oh my god, you're fat shaming Thor, and
Yeah.
I personally I don't get that. I'm looking at it going, no, this is what happens when somebody gives up on life.
Yeah, they just let
yeah.
themselves go, right?
Yeah,
It
they
just
let
is what it
themselves
is.
go. Yeah, they let themselves go, and I think it would be. I personally loved what they did with Thor in this film. I think they made him such such a heavy character, because that whole thing of I should have gone for the head. So yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, you were talking about another hole that you found.
So the other hole that I found was, so basically the Infinity Stones, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the first thing, in Guardians of the Galaxy, they made a massive deal about the fact nobody can hold an Infinity Stone,
Mm-hmm.
right? But
Yep.
then, yeah, everybody in Endgame was holding them. It was holding. Hawkeye was holding it when he got the Soul Stone. He just held it, and what did he do with it? How did he get it back?
Well, the whole
Yeah.
the Soul Stone, I think that's a different one because the Soul Stone is given to the person who has claimed it. So you have to go there. You have to sacrifice something that you love to get the Soul
Yeah.
Stone. So I think that there's some magic wimey thing saying a bit like Thor's hammer. You are now worthy of holding the Soul Stone.
Nah. But then there's also Doctor Strange's Time Stone, which the Hulk held, but didn't have any consequences of that. And the Ancient One also held it. So everybody was just
Yep.
holding the Infinity Stones left, right, and centre.
Well,
Even Tony Stark, and I know people say it's because he had his suit on and he did the nanotechnology to grab the Infinity Stones from Thor, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
All of that kind of stuff. But in the end, he, like, everyone was just holding them left, right, and centre. And I know he struggled because he had it and then he had to click his fingers, but he was still wearing it in a glove. They had to make that glove out of dwarf's iron that was cast out of special material to hold those Infinity Stones. Yet his suit could hold it, and other people were just holding Infinity Stones left, right, and centre.
Okay, cool. All right. Okay, let's look through the Infinity.
Yeah,
Let's look through this. So we have the Tesseract, right? We have the Tesseract, and it's been like people when they grabbed it, they put it's actually been shown throughout the whole thing that people have held the Tesseract because the Infinity Stone is within the Tesseract. So
yeah, agree. That's fine.
Apart from the time when Red Skull held it, and then it transported him somewhere. The Tesseract's fine. The Mind Stone, which is it?
When was that?
That's at the end of Captain America, the first Avenger.
I might have to watch that one again.
Yeah, Red Skull picks up the Infinity Stone. That's why he ends up at Voromir, because he picks up the Infinity Stone and then it goes, "Ah!" and then he disappears, and we don't have a clue where he went until like 10 years later, and then you watch the Infinity One, you're like, oh, that's where he went. But it's so you have that. Then you have the Mind Stone, which is in Loki's staff. And that one, throughout the whole thing, people have been holding the staff. Nothing happens with that. Then you have the Ether, which was in Natalie Portman in Thor: The Dark World. That was pulled out with some doohickey and was held within the doohickey.
So even the doohickey itself, like that is, how did they make this special thing to extract the ether?
Well, they had something in Thor: The Dark World. They had something to extract the ether from her. So they made something. They made something in there, and and Thor always said. He said it in the first Thor film. He said like the things that you think and look at and you think are magic for us is just science. So it's just really, really advanced science. So so they could come up with
those ones I get.
Yeah, so they could come up with something to suck the ether out of her. The Power Stone, which is the one in the first Guardians of the Galaxy, when Nebula picks it out, it's already encased in some sort of like orb thing, and that orb thing, even in the first Guardians of the Galaxy, they could hold the orb. What they couldn't hold was the Power Stone, so they could hold the orb.
Yeah, but when Quill gets the Power Stone, he can't hold it. Well, he can hold it because he's part God. Right?
Yeah. But that only happens at the end of Guardians. All the way through, it's just the orb, and they don't open that orb for ages in Guardians. Now, the Time Stone, magic. Because the Time Stone's magic, because if you notice, what's his name? Strange, he never actually holds the stone. It always floats. So
Exactly.
the ancient one, when she takes it out, it floats, and when it goes to the Hulk, it floats on his hand. It doesn't actually touch his hand.
Does it?
Yeah, yeah.
I thought he picked it up because he picked it from her hand. He picked it with his fingers, I thought.
Yeah, well, maybe I have to watch it again. But from what I can see, it floats.
Okay.
It floats from her to him, and I remember it hovering over his hand. So how he transports it from there, I don't know. Maybe she decides to put some spell around him and everything like that. Essentially, in this film's magic, he can do that. So
Yeah.
and the Soul Stone seems to have some magic thing, as in the person who claims it and can carry it. Um, I'm not sure if that's all of them, but essentially, I think there's reasons, essential reasons. And when it comes to the gauntlet, because it's okay, as what Thor said is, you think it's magic, it's just science. And knowing who Tony Stark is, Tony Stark can go, okay, hang on a second. Let's look at like, even they mentioned a bit like the radiation coming off the Infinity Stones is gamma. It's pretty much like Hulk says that. He says it's a gamma radiation. That means that I'll be the only one to able to handle it. And it's so I think Tony Stark could put that thing in, see what's this thing giving off? What kind of thing do we need to build to hold these stones? And he would just figure it out from a science point of view because it's not magic, it's science. Just really advanced science, like a flying metal suit. So I have no problem with the idea that they could build a gauntlet that could handle these things because they were doing it in like, like, I mean, you did biomedical stuff.
Biochemical engineering.
That was it, biochemical engineering.
Yeah.
And so they have that whole bit where it's kind of like, you have like a wind, what's it called, a wind hood, an extractor hood, and
Yeah.
that's how they maneuvered everything into this new gauntlet. But once they had the gauntlet, everybody else after that doesn't hold the stones; they hold the gauntlet. So and I think what you can see is that you can hold the gauntlet, but if you put the gauntlet on, that's when you're actually channeling the power of the stones. So when Hawkeye picks it up, he picks up the gauntlet. He never picks up the stones. Everybody after
Agree.
that picks up the gauntlet, not the stones. So I think
But then
that
Tony, at the end, when he grabs the stones from Thanos,
yes,
puts them into his own suit,
yes,
right, to create his own gauntlet.
yeah.
How is his suit resistant enough to hold those
I think
those
he built the new
Infinity Stones?
gauntlet. So in my head, I'm thinking that he's built the new gauntlet out of the same, or he's built his new suit out of the same material as the gauntlet. So for me, I'm thinking that because if you look at
Yeah.
if you look at that second gauntlet is an Iron Man gauntlet. You look at it, it looks like it's come off an Iron Man suit. And so and knowing Tony Stark, I mean, this is the man who between the first Avengers movie and Iron Man 3, this is the man who built 42 different versions of his own suit. He's constantly tinkering. He's constantly messing things up. And ever since he's been paranoid since Age of Ultron and all that kind of stuff, I can imagine that he is the kind of person who would be like, okay, cool, we're building this gauntlet from this metal, but let's make sure that we have a fail-safe. Let's make sure that we can control this thing in some way or anything like that. So for me, it makes sense that he would do that. I know, and I think if they put all this on screen, it would have been A, boring, and B, just made the film even longer. So I'm happy
And
for that to not be on screen.
but this is the thing. So like I said, I very much enjoyed it. And I think they made it very well.
Yeah.
But being the person that I am, I couldn't help but be like, wait, I have a question about that.
No, no.
But overall, I think the movie was a very good movie. It was really entertaining. I think that it makes you want to go back and watch the Marvel movies again.
Yes.
So that then you can lead up
Yes.
and watch Endgame again and
Yeah.
be like, oh yeah, now I understand why that bit's there. There were so many hidden things that I
Oh,
think you could pick up on watching it 2, 3, 4 times.
yeah. I want to go watch this film again, if for no other reason. I want to spot Howard the Duck.
Is Howard the Duck in it?
Apparently, Howard the Duck is in it.
No.
Yeah.
From the Collector.
Yeah, from the Collector.
Howard the Duck. Yeah.
He showed up in, I think he's been in 3 films, and so Howard the Duck. You know the bit where where all the portals open on that final battle, and everybody comes through.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody. Apparently, Howard the Duck is coming through one of those portals with a gun.
I think I might have seen him actually. Because I remember seeing loads of different characters and thinking, oh wait, And but then, oh, did I? Or am I just saying that because you've said it now?
No, I heard it and I was like, I did not see that. I did not see that at
Yeah.
all. But I am so. The thing is, I want to go see it again because when I first watched it, I was like, oh my god, they made a problem there, and I started thinking about it, and I was like, actually, no, that, no, that, no, actually, no, that's consistent. Oh no, wait, that, oh crap, that works. And I was going through the film, I was going, actually, it's consistent. It's consistent with its own logic, and the more I think about this film ever since it's been released, the more it's just grown in my estimation. The more I'm just kind of like, dang, these guys have done a. This is impressive. This is so
Yeah.
impressive. But I think that this film is really a victory lap. It's almost kind of like a thanks for staying with us for the last 10 years. We have one more trick up our sleeves. Hope you enjoy it. And then
Yeah.
at the end of the film, it's like thank you very much. Good night. But I
Yeah.
just the more I think about it, the more I'm just shocked at what they actually managed to achieve. Because this film could have been rubbish. This film could have, and I would have been fine with it if it was rubbish. Because what they've done over the last 10 years has been great. And
Yeah. I agree.
I'm like, look, you have earned the right to make rubbish now. You have been amazing for so long. You've earned the right to make rubbish. But the fact that they've gone to this stage and they're still trying so hard, and it's looking like it's going to become the biggest film ever made.
But I agree with you, Tosin. Like they've done so much over the last 10 years. Like I, you can go back and watch those movies. They're entertaining, despite having watched them a number of times. If you look at DC, I like quite a few of the, I like quite a few of the DC movies, despite everyone else's reviews of them. I actually quite like a few of them, but they haven't hit that same level as Marvel, right? And it just shows you how difficult it is to do that. Like,
Yeah,
if you think back to Iron Man, what do we have before Iron Man that was anything like that? So obviously they had X-Men, and X-Men was good, but it was no Iron Man. And
hmm,
they've only built on that more and more and more.
yeah,
Our expectations have got higher, right?
yeah,
Like, we're expecting so much from these movies now
yeah.
that, and now when I think back to it, I watch an X-Men, one of the very, very ones, the initial ones, and you're just like, oh my God, we thought these were amazing. Now look at what we're at, right?
Well, that is, I mean, the truth is that they all built each other. They were quite tentative. I actually think all the way back to Blade. If you remember Blade with Wesley Snipes,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Although Blade is a classic.
Blade is
Blade
awesome.
Trinity, oh, amazing.
Yeah, Blade is awesome, and
Yeah,
I think that they've done so well. I mean, but wait, as you said, they kept building and building, and just sort of like okay, but what they did in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where I love the fact that they started off so low key because apparently Iron Man. I mean, I've loved Iron Man ever since I was a kid. Me and my friends in Nigeria, we used to read Iron Man comics. We used to think about Tony Stark and his whole thing and how he started off originally was in Vietnam. By the time he got to the films, it was in Afghanistan. So we loved Iron Man. And first, Iron Man was a big deal. I remember that they said there was actually a news story that said Tom Cruise was supposed to play Iron Man, and I remember nearly crying when I read this. I, I remember going, no, Tom Cruise, he's wrong. He's wrong for Iron Man. He's not Tony Stark. Then, and I remember when they mentioned Robert Downey Jr., I was like, yeah, he could do it. But apparently Iron Man was not that big a deal. People did not really know Iron Man over here or in America. He wasn't seen as like a banner name like Superman or Batman or Spider Man.
yeah.
And so they decided to take him, and when the way they just when they started with that, and they went, okay, we'll just give you this, see if it works. We'll give Thor, and if you watch the first Iron Man, it's really good, but it's quite safe and it's quite tentative. And the first Thor is safe, and the first Captain America is safe. They're all very safe films, and it's because they're just testing the waters to see what happens. Then they get to Avengers, the first Avengers film, and then it goes a little bit crazy. It goes a little bit mental. And I remember watching the first Avengers, and my brother, he watched it and he came out of the cinema and he sent me a text going, "Avengers is the best adaptation of anything ever." He was like, "It's the best adaptation of anything ever made," and we thought that was amazing. And this was so good, and you could never do anything better than this. And they've just built on it and built on it, and just kept going crazier and crazier, and taking something like Guardians of the Galaxy that nobody knew about before they made that film. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just in shock at what they've done. And
This is the thing.
yeah, the guy who's
And
been behind it, doing everything, is a guy called Kevin Feige, who I think he's kind of like I think when everything falls out, they're going to look at Kevin Feige and they're going to talk about him in the same way they talk about Steve Jobs.
Yeah,
because
he's changed cinema quite a lot,
he
right?
really
Like,
has.
also, I like the fact that if you think about it, Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, Thor, they could have just kept on going with that same recipe, right?
Yeah,
But instead, what they've done is Captain America was different, right? I know he's still like a male superhero, quite, but he's different. Guardians of the Galaxy, then they even went for Thor Ragnarok.
yeah,
Like they've really, it's not just like they've been like, we've got a recipe, we're just cracking them out, one after another, same thing, same thing. They've been thinking about actually, let's get some different directors in, let's get some different characters in.
let's get
Let's,
some.
like you say, let's not get the main characters from Marvel characters from the comics, that everybody knows. Let's get some, like you say, Guardians of the Galaxy, where it's smaller characters, and we're not going to stick with the kind of traditional people that you might expect to play them. We're going to get people who are not so traditional,
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
that has blown my mind. The people who they've got to play these characters is amazing.
Yeah, and they all seem to really fit. Like they've really put a lot of care into every single movie to say
Yes.
what's going to fit. Not this works. Actually, it might not work, and yeah, some of them might not be successful, but at least we tried to do something a bit different.
Yeah.
That's
So
why I think they've done a really good job. And I think Endgame, like you say, is just the culmination of
it's
various different movies.
it's a victory lap. It's
Yeah,
it's
agree.
yeah, it's them just running around being like, "Yay, yay! Look at us! Look what we've done!" The way I explained it is like it's Usain Bolt has run he's won his ninth gold medal in Rio, and he's just running around the lap applauding the audience and every now and then giving them his like to the world pose because he knows that's what they want. So there's bits in Endgame that I think are just totally fan service. There are bits in Endgame that it's like, yeah, we know you've been waiting for this for a long time. Here, have it. Like
Yeah.
in that final battle, the bit where giant man punches one of those Leviathan things in the face, I was like, that is so awesome.
I don't remember that bit.
Yeah, I know. The thing is, that final battle, there's so much going on. There's so much
This is the thing,
going.
you can miss stuff.
Yeah,
You can miss stuff like crazy. I
yes.
want to kind of watch it on. So this is one reason why I would watch it on Netflix if it ever came on Netflix,
So you could pause
is
it.
so that I can pause it
Pause it, go
or
frame by
rewind it and
frame.
be like, yeah, or rewind it and be like, okay, I've watched that 1 centimeter. I'm gonna now watch this to 1 centimeter and this 1 centimeter and this 1 centimeter, and just watch it over and over again.
Yeah, but the thing is, with the final battle, I think I think it is messy. It's messy. It's not like even compared to the one in Infinity War. In the one in Infinity War is a lot more controlled. You can see the different things that are happening. You can see all the different action beats. In in um in Endgame, it's messy. There's just stuff happening all over the shop, and I think it needed to be because it's just when you think about the scale of that fight, it's just like the biggest fight that we've seen. It's massive. I mean, Lord of the Rings, eat your heart out. But it's and I love the fact that they have all these different things. They have them fighting, and they're having this chat, and they say something, and then all of a sudden you just see like Giant Man's foot just comes down and steps on one of these things, and I need to go watch that again. But yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna go watch that I'm gonna go watch that with Claudia, with my wife, and and when yeah, and then when we see it, we're just gonna watch it, and she's gonna watch it for the first time. I'm just gonna be sitting there probably with a notepad going, oh yeah, so Howard the Duck. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's a good line. Oh, but
but
yeah.
Tosin, if you go and watch it again, you got to watch all of the Marvel movies again. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to watch it again until I've seen all the Marvel movies again.
No,
Because
no, no.
even though I recently watched Ant-Man and Wasp, Captain Marvel, Thor Ragnarok, all of those, I'm still going to watch all of those again in the lead up to me watching it. Because and I want to really I always forget bits. I've not got a very good memory, so I always forget bits. But this time I'm probably going to take notes. Be like, okay, so just remember, Nina, that this happened and that will link to this. And then when you watch Endgame, and then I'll probably have to go back and watch all the movies again to catch up again.
Well, that's you sorted for the next 6 months then.
Exactly. There's no
that's
Game
your
of Thrones for me or anything. It's only Marvel movies.
that's it. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Nina, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having the chat. Thank you for coming on the podcast, I guess I should say. And
No.
yeah, and I know you probably have stuff to like work in the morning and all that kind of stuff at the moment. And I've got to go see how on earth we've had two miracle comebacks by English teams on subsequent nights in the Champions League.
Oh yeah. Well, good watching, Tosin.
Yeah, because Tottenham have just made it through to the final.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they
I
just
heard
made it.
about. Was it Liverpool
Yeah,
yesterday?
Liverpool,
Yeah.
Liverpool yesterday, which is and I mean, you do essentially right. What Liverpool did yesterday was kind of like Endgame. It's What we talk about Endgame being an impressive thing. What Liverpool did yesterday was like, how the hell did you do that? And if you don't follow football, I understand that you might not really you might not really get that. But honestly, what they did yesterday was, it was nobody gave them a chance. I was like, I didn't want to watch the match because I was like, they might do it, but let's be honest with you, they're probably not going to do it, and it's just going to be really, 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 really sad, and it was just going to be embarrassing when they don't do it. And what they did yesterday is mental. And now Tottenham have this I don't even, I mean, I don't, what a time to be alive. Liverpool are coming back again to the final. Glenn Hoddle's on TV right now. He looks like he's about to cry. Tottenham are getting to the final. The Avengers Endgame is in the cinema. Game of Thrones season 8 is on TV.
You are having a field day, aren't you?
I'm having a field day. I'm having a field day. All I need to do now is earn enough money to get a house, and I'm sorted. I'm sorted.
That's your life done.
That's my life done. That's my life done. I'll be like, you know what? 2019, greatest year ever. Greatest year ever.
It's only May, Tosin. What's going to happen the rest of the time?
People be like, oh no, I'm expecting that Brexit's going to make the rest of the year rubbish. So
Enjoy yourself while you can.
yeah, exactly. I was saying Brexit's going to make the rest of the year rubbish. All the random bickering, and I'm expecting that before I know it, Trump, who's been quiet for a while, is going to send out a tweet and it's going to make me put my head in my hands. So I'm saying that everything that's happened so far has made that whatever they do in the rest of the year, it will still be the greatest year ever.
Don't make me sound stupid.
Whether you sound stupid or not, you've already done it. I mean,
I know it's too late now.
I can add or take anything away from it. All right. All right, cool.
All right then, Tosin. Speak to you later.
Speak to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so I spoke to Nina yesterday, and she was talking.
Yeah.
Spoke to Nina yesterday, and she was talking about how she was like, yeah, I actually do think I'm Sean, because she's like, a lot of the things that she watches, and a lot of things like Sean says something, and she's like, I think that was this like.
Oh wow, that's cool. That's good.
So
brilliant.
So when that goes up, Sean, you hear Nina, you hear what she actually had to say about the film and everything. But last week when we spoke about it, there was just so much. We ran out of time because there's just so much in this film. So, is there anything to kick off with that you guys thought, oh, you didn't quite get to talk about last week? About Avengers Endgame, which I must point out.
Having to think.
You're having to think about that as class. I mean, I'd like to go back to the part. There was a bit, Toes, that you didn't like, was like when all the female superheroes in the big battle at the end.
Yes.
The female superheroes, when they go, she's got friends. You didn't like that, did you?
No. It felt like too forced. It felt like that. It didn't feel natural. It didn't flow.
It wasn't a punch in the air moment for you then, like, No.
I don't think that sort of sisterhood thing doesn't do it for me.
Not the sisterhood.
No. Well, because I think. The thing is about that moment is I know that it's a punch in the air for some people, but I think we spoke about this when we spoke about Captain Marvel. I mean, it's a punch in the air for some people, and that's fine. It isn't for me because some people, maybe they've been like, we haven't been represented for so long, and maybe this is, yes, finally, people showing that, women can fight. And I'm like, okay, fine, but it's essentially because there's a version of this story where they make that moment, and then that's it, and then it's another 10 years before you get another film that has a female superhero as the lead, and what's the point of that moment? But I don't think Marvel would do that because I don't think that's what the company is like. But that moment just doesn't sell it for me. But
no, I mean, it didn't do a lot for me either, I have to say, because I think in some ways, the fact that it's treating women differently, isn't it? It's by putting them all together and saying, look, all the girls are there together. It's treating them differently. So you don't say, look, all the boys are together. It makes a point of.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Saying, see, I didn't.
Look at the sisterhood.
I mean, I guess I didn't.
And to me, it was like they say, well, it's almost like reverse discrimination. It's still singling women out as being a bit different because you don't go, hey, all the boys are together, up for the brotherhood. It's like, no, they're fighting the same enemy together. Why should it matter who are they fighting alongside? So to me, it didn't really mean a lot.
Yeah, I think for me, on that point, something that meant more was the bit where when Pepper Potts shows up in that armor, I was like, yes,
Yeah, so there's some interesting elements, I think, to that final battle scene. I think it is frustrating sometimes because you want to see more of one character than another. But I thought there were some good moments in it, even if like the sisterhood were all together. The
Yeah.
fact that they did this sort of relay race where sort of Spider-Man passes it on to
to Black Panther. No,
to-
no, I think it's
to
Black Panther passes it on to Spider Man, who is ended up on the floor. Then Captain Marvel comes up and goes, "Shall I take that?" And then takes it for Spider Man. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I like that
So I do
relay
like
race
that.
bit. Yeah,
And it is sort of like the new generation as well, isn't it? It's like the old guard are there, but then it's sort of often the new generation who are sort of taking that baton on, and we can see that they're going to be carrying on the Marvel story,
Yeah.
even if some of the old characters are no longer there
yeah,
to do it with them.
Yeah.
So the fact that it was Spidey and Marvel together, Captain Marvel together, was like a nice little touch. And there's some nice little elements of humour, isn't there, with the fact that Peter Parker Spider-Man doesn't ever stop talking when he's in those situations.
Yeah.
He's still he's a
That's
running
one thing I
commentary.
like about that. I really
Yeah.
like that in Civil War, where he's
Yeah.
like, "Whoa, those wings, titanium! Whoa, that's so cool!" and all that. And you go, "Kid, have you ever been in a fight? You talk too much." So,
And there's this sort of
I
stream
like that
of
about-
consciousness from
yeah,
us,
yeah.
like, "Hey, Doctor Strange said we've been asleep for 5 years, but hey, we've got to
yeah.
come and do the fight." And,
That's it.
and it's sort of this sort of something.
yeah.
just-
And that bit that you talk about, where he talks about Doctor Strange and everything like that, that the only thing that shuts him up is Tony Stark hugging him. Because obviously,
That's it,
because
yeah.
obviously he feels such a
Yeah, I was there, like, yeah, that's
and he hugs him. But I mean, and just the bit where that for me in the battle was big and the battle was massive as it had to be. And I felt like I thought that the final battle was a bit messy. Like if you compare it to all the other big battles that they've had, if you compare
Yeah.
it to the one in Civil War, I mean not Civil War, in Infinity War. Infinity War, there's like it's a lot more. Okay, that happens and we can follow it. This one is just kind of like a melee, and there's just stuff happening all over the shop because it's just massive. And I think there's a shot that they have. Well, but it's the small moments in this that I love. So there's a shot that they have where they have, right after Captain America says "Avengers Assemble," where you see the two armies running towards each other, and you just get this sense of scale of how big this
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
is and how massive this fight is. And you're like, oh my god, how are we going to follow anything in this? And to a certain extent, they don't really follow, but it's the little emotional bits, like the bit where you have Iron Man and Pepper Potts in her armor fighting back to back. The bit where you have Ant-Man and the Wasp and they do something together, and it's just those tiny bits where they're talking to each other. And for me, the bit that so you have the obviously they're fighting Thanos, and I love the fact that this film just shows that Thanos, even without the stones, he's a badass.
Oh yeah,
Even without the
he's a
stones,
force to be reckoned
he
with.
is a force to be reckoned with. I love the fact that the film showed that. And so there's a bit where Captain America has been beaten and he does his whole tighten his shield, and he starts working, and you just hear that and they hear Cap on your left. And that tiny bit before all the portals open and everybody comes through, I was like, yes. I was just like, because obviously I knew that they were back. I knew they were going to come
I might have
back.
to go and watch it again.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to watch it again. But the thing is, like, because you knew they all come back, and you knew they were all going to come back. But it's the way in which they did it. It wasn't like it was the fact that it wasn't just a bombastic thing. It was that before that, it all comes down to the look on Captain America's face when he hears the static, and then he hears Falcon say "Cap on your left," and you can just see almost like the guy is broken, almost the same. Oh my god, it actually worked. Oh my god, we actually did it. And it's the same way how I said last week that the beginning of this film, where they're all mourning what happened at the end of Infinity War, sells Infinity War to me, because like it makes me think, yes, this actually meant something. This was big. This was massive for
Yes.
these characters. And the same way that even though they're coming back, that the way they handle it, the crackle of static, and then Falcon saying "Cap on your left," and the look on Captain America's face, for me, that sold that moment for me. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. And then when they're coming in, I love the fact where Giant Man punches one of those things in the face, And
Yeah.
and the fact that you have the battle going, and there's a bit, I can't remember who's talking to who in the middle of the battle, but they beat one of Thanos' things, and then all of a sudden Giant Man's foot comes down and just crushes it. And you don't even see, all you see is just the foot as it crushes it, and it just carries on down the. So I think the final fight is messy. I don't think it's as defined, but I think at that point in time it's just awesome. It's what you need. It's just
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think it's done really well, isn't it? I mean, is it gonna surpass Titanic? Is it gonna surpass Avatar? Do you think? Or...
Well, at the moment, I was actually looking at this. This film has now made $2.3 billion.
Wow!
It made $2 billion in 11 days of its release.
So it's on track to beat Avatar.
So I think it would. I personally think it would have to be something like everybody just decides to stop watching films. I think that's about the only thing that's going to stop it. Or if there's a horrible thing, like, you know, there's a big, massive natural disaster, and nobody's in the mood for watching films, and they have to pull it out of cinemas. I think that's the only. It's going to take something on that scale to stop this film becoming the most successful film of all time.
All time, yeah, I reckon. Yeah, so
it's. I think it's going to, because, and I think it did. And I think it deserves it. I think it deserves it more than Avatar, because, I mean... I
think it's a class movie myself. I really enjoyed it. You enjoyed it too, didn't you, Sharon?
I did. I think...
We all gave it 5 stars.
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
I think
it
marks
must be.
That, and I
That's
think
unusual,
the
isn't
it? The fact that it marks this achievement, that this is the film company that have had this vision, and that they haven't misstepped really along the way. I don't think there's films that have been sort of smaller films, but as building up this picture to get this end game, I think has been remarkable.
Yeah, how they've done it all has been absolutely fantastic, hasn't it, really?
Yeah, so it's not just one film, it's a journey to this film. And I think even if you've only seen a few Marvel films, because not everyone has seen all of them, I mean, I haven't seen all of them, but you can recognise the achievement of the fact that they've built on this one film after another, and the characters have changed and developed, and they don't just like reset the clock so it's exactly the same characters was in the last film. They change with each experience, and you can see how they've grown and it's expanded, and it's been remarkable, I think.
And they surprise you, and they don't always do what you think they will. And
no, I think that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think most any other film, you wouldn't get Thor, the god of thunder, for going from, you know, the long blonde-haired sort of god to how he ends up at the end of Endgame. You wouldn't see that.
I think that was so cleverly done. I think that was so cleverly done.
I thought it was brilliant. It was
cleverly done.
It was one of the highlights of the film.
Yeah. One thing though, I'm just wondering was with Valkyrie, she was part of it. Where did she get her flying thing from? Pegasus.
Yeah, that needs to be, because that Pegasus seems to show up when she wants it. It seems like that Pegasus is her version of Thor's hammer.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it seems to be in some sort of other dimension, and she just kind of goes, Pegasus, and he goes, right.
I'd take that.
Yeah, because
because
that's the only explanation, because unless
it's my thing.
But they've never fully explained that. The horse just shows up whenever that horse with wings shows up whenever it feels like. So
someone, you know, I know, going off on a tangent here, like I do. Going back to Game of Thrones, sending off your best troops. Someone explained. Someone gave me a good stance to that. So I might half accept what they said that might have happened. So that's an excuse they did for the bit that I thought was stupid.
Yeah.
They told me
You've
something.
drawn that back in again.
Well, I don't know. I'm still doubtful, but hey, I take it a bit like taking Pegasus, I guess.
There's another nice moment, I think, sort of Thor related. As we were talking about Thor and the Asgardians, the new Asgardians of the galaxy. There's a nice moment where Cap obviously can handle. What's the name of the hammer?
Mjolnir.
Yeah.
And they're fighting, and he says, "No, you take the little one."
Yes.
War hammers, don't they? So that was quite a nice touch. That Thor's still in there, He's got that arrogance and that.
And it is great.
He just needs a bit of healing, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
He's like, no,
Asgardians
you're
of
not
the
going to be.
galaxy.
I've got a bigger hammer than you now.
okay. There are so
That was
many.
a nice touch, I thought.
There's so many things. I know you guys have to get off, and there's. I think we're going to be talking about this film in like 3 months' time. So
Yeah, I think so.
because there's so much that they pack in there that I don't even think I've noticed. But until the next time, when a film like this gets released, you know, it's a bit like the football, how Tuesday happened with Liverpool,
Yeah.
and people went, "Oh my God, we're never going to see this again," and the next day it happened again. So, so now I've become really, really wary about saying, "Oh, we're never going to see something like this again," because.
Well, it's been proven it can happen. So
Yeah.
Yes.
once it's set a precedent, hasn't it?
Yeah.
That's really.
And it's just up to someone else to match it. Because whoever thought that cinema trilogies would happen
Wow, that's it.
30 years ago? Whoever heard of a trilogy? Of
Yeah.
films?
Do you know what I'm excited for? Do you know what I'm on about that? Do you know what I'm excited for? Do you know what I'm excited
John
for?
Wick, Chapter 3, Parabellum.
That's one of him, but even more than that. Even more so than that.
Ooh.
No.
Oh, come on. End of the month?
I don't know.
No? Oh, mate. You must know. You must know.
I'll probably go, oh, yeah.
It's like the great... I've been looking forward more to this than I have Endgame, to be fair.
What is this?
Godzilla!
Godzilla!
King
I
of
see.
Monsters!
Oh, that.
Godzilla!
Oh, that.
Okay, now I get it.
You know what? Okay, I'm going to tell you what I think about this. This is my prediction about that film. That film is going to be ruined by the humans because they've gotten some stars in the film, and the problem with all these films is that whenever you add humans to something that doesn't need humans, it messes the whole thing up because you have to keep cutting back to the humans. I'm like, give me a film where Godzilla, King Ghidorah, Mothra are fighting, and there's no humans that we need to. I don't care about the humans. I want to see these things fight.
I don't know. I quite like that. I quite liked Rampage. I thought Rampage was class.
That was a fun film.
Yeah, it was a fun film, wasn't it? Yeah, it was a real good film.
Okay, so we look forward to Godzilla.
Gojira! Yeah,
Okay,
you're
cool.
going to see that. I'm going to go and see it.
I'm not going
to
to see it in 3D again because that makes
No,
me queasy.
yeah, we won't watch
but
that.
I shall probably enjoy it and
Perhaps
try
you should
to.
come over and see it in IMAX.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
We're going to have a special trip.
Okay,
Yeah.
in that case, all right, I'm going to let you guys go. I'm going to head off myself,
Okay.
and I'm going to go watch. I'm going to go watch Endgame again. And my aim is I want to be the person who buys the ticket that sends Endgame past Avatar. It's only
Yeah, that's it. That'd be cool.
yeah. It's only $400 million away. That's nothing.
That's nothing in today's.
You can get there.
Yeah, you can get, it's
All right then, Toes.
2.3 million at the moment. Yeah, it's no big deal. All right, cool. Thanks for chatting, guys.
Okay, brother.
Yeah. We'll see you next
I'll get
week.
that sent off to you. I'm going to shoot off pretty quick, so
Yeah, cool.
I'll send it to you a bit later. Okay.
Yeah, good stuff. Chat to you guys
care.
next week.
All right.
Bye.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.